Welcome to the Rev'ing Up live event. We're so excited that you're here. We're excited to hear your questions and continue this dialogue that we've been having all season. It's really good to see you here, maskless.
In the same room.
I know. Because we're both vaccinated.
Yes.
So
Great.
We're here. It's amazing. What a long time.
Yep. Well, friends, we are coming to you live from Community Church of New York, and we are actually, you may notice this amazing, beautiful room that we're in. This is the Minister's Study right on East 35th Street, which you might be able to see out there behind Carrie. And not only are we coming to you from Community Church, we also have a land acknowledgement that we would like to share to open up things this evening. We are gathered on the unceded land of the Lenape peoples. I ask you to join me in acknowledging the Lenape community, their elders, both past and present, as well as future generations. Community Church of New York also acknowledges that it was founded upon exclusions and erasures of many indigenous peoples, including those on whose land this institution is located. This acknowledgement demonstrates a commitment to beginning a process of working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism.
So should we light our chalice?
Let's do it. Let's light our chalice.
All right. That's great. So we have some words from Kimberly Quinn Johnson based on a phrase, "We are the ones we have been waiting for," which comes from the words of June Jordan in Poem for South African Women from 1978. We are the ones we have been waiting for. We are not perfect, but we are perfectly fitted for this day. We are not without fault, but we can be honest to face our past as we chart a new future. We are the ones we have been waiting for. May we be bold and courageous to chart that new future. May we have faith in a future that is not known. We are the ones we have been waiting for. So here we are.
Yes, here we are live. We have been building up to this. It's so exciting to be actually like in a room together and live. I've never done a live event like this.
Me neither. Nope. This is my first.
So thank you for joining us. We would love to know what kinds of questions you have, what kinds of things you might want to share with us and with our listening and viewing community, and curiosities, stories, anything that comes to mind. Please, you are the ones we have been waiting for. We're happy to take your questions and your reflections. We have our very helpful production manager, director. I'm not exactly sure.
You just call me a producer.
Producer. Woo-woo. Amy is here and will read your questions and comments as you post them.
Yeah, so the chat is open. People can introduce themselves in the chat and we'll say hello to you live. And while everybody is working on that, we have some questions for Meagan and Carrie to start off with. And these came from the initial survey, the community survey that we did when we were ideating for Rev'ing Up. So here's a good one. We've spoken about this a little bit throughout the season of Rev'ing Up, but speak a little bit more to it. How do you balance leading with following?
I love that question.
That's a really good question. That's a really good question. What helps me kind of keep a handle on that is, it is not, as a minister, it is not my congregation, but my role is to make sure that the congregation is healthy and living up to their mission. So the congregation says what their mission is and what their priorities are. And my role as a minister is to help them get there and understand that the process is as important as the product. So it's not just get them there, it's get them there in a way that builds community, and it's the way that they do that.
Yeah, that's a really good answer, Carrie. I think I do see leading and following is such an interesting balance, and there's a lot of going back and forth, I think, in our role. And maybe one thing that I would add to what Carrie said is that there's also, to further deepen a little bit, I see my job as to help remind the congregation, the community, of our mission, our vision, our principles, our values, and to keep on maintaining that container, building that container, holding that container. So a lot of it has to do with reminding, I think, remembering, recalling, calling us back to our mission. Right.
And then there's also following in terms of work out in the community. And that's a different standpoint as well. And I would think that any time I, as a minister, would be involved with organizations outside the church, there would be this discernment that goes on as to understanding what my role is, what relationships have I built, and what ramifications do that have for the work that I will do within that relationship.
So we have a question from one of our listeners, maybe one of our most beloved listeners, Errol de los Santos. Hi, Errol. Errol asks, what do you look for in a mentor? Or what do you look for in people who model ministry for you?
I look for humility. I look for a person who is a leader, who is willing to be vulnerable, who's willing to, it really means a lot to me when someone is willing and able to say that they are sorry. And I know that might seem like kind of a weird thing to come from, but I think that as leaders, so often we are put on pedestals, or we're put into these, we put our leaders into roles of being perfect, and then they are held up to some standard that then they feel like they have to be this perfect leader, and can get into a situation where then they're no longer able to feel comfortable learning and growing and doing that in community. And that's the kind of example, when a leader is able to do that, that's the kind of leader that that's the kind of person that I want to model myself after, and that I really look up to and want to be in relationship with, because it's a continuation of learning and growing. We can't continue to learn and grow and be our best selves and be better leaders if we're not able to admit when we've made a mistake and apologize for it and figure out how to move forward then in a healthy relationship. Yeah.
I think there's also different mentors for different times in my life and different challenges that I'm facing. So for instance, one of the things that we did when we started this internship was to create a learning plan about what are the various things that I want to learn in my time at community church. And I have a fairly good handle on what my growing edges are. So I would want, when I look for a mentor, I'm looking for someone who can help, who understands. I'm in dialogue with that person. I can have these open dialogues about these are my goals. Are you able to help me with those? And also, it's also similar to choosing a therapist. There are people with whom you are able to learn from based on, better able to learn from based on my personality and their personality. So there is a personality element too. Like if I was with someone with my own style, if someone was very critical of me in a really angry way, that wouldn't gel well with my personality. But I would want someone who's direct. So there's the personality thing as well.
Totally. Yeah. What you were just saying reminded me that I have one of my mentors who is the person who I go to when I know that I need to hear that voice of accountability, because she will say the hard stuff to me that many other people might not, feel comfortable saying, or the way we don't have that kind of relationship. But she's the kind of friend and mentor who I know will tell me those things that are the hard things that I need to hear. And that's just it's just so important to have a variety of different kinds of mentors in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's part of that posse I think we were talking about earlier.
So we have another question from another beloved listener and watcher.
Who is it?
Do you want to guess?
I kind of want to guess Randy.
It's Randy. Hi, Randy. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Randy says, first, thank you so much for this podcast. It's been great. And we thank you so much, Randy, for listening and for your consistent engagement. And Randy's question is, how do you see your intern role changing, if at all, next year as we go back to being in person?
That's a good question. Do you want to start?
Sure. I think on a very, very foundational level, I imagine myself being able to be more relational and more present with congregants. I think that I see myself being able to get to know people better and have more time. I think one-on-one and in-person time, worshiping together, praying together, having sharing circles together, debating, all of these things that we do in religious community, being able to be in a room with someone and do that. I think the relationship is going to deepen incredibly. And I hope and trust that it will.
Yeah, for me, my role is going to change just because I structured, I mentioned the learning agreement, and the first year I was doing a lot of religious education work, and this next year I'm doing more of the social justice kind of work. So just in the kind of work I'm doing next year is going to be different. I'm really interested to see how the combination of in-person and Zoom works out. For me, coming into the city really helps because I'm out in the suburbs, and while I've been in the city a lot, there's just an energy to the city. There's a dynamism to the city, and I pick up on that when I'm here, that I don't do it when I'm looking out at my yard and at my house.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's a different energy for sure. Totally. And I think that energy is going to come across in our gatherings together. I'm trying to think of some. Oh, go ahead.
And I'm just looking forward to giving a sermon to where I actually can see the people reacting. Right now, it's just putting it out there, and I don't know what's happening on the other end.
I also expect to actually be able to do pastoral visits.
Yes.
Which I'm thrilled about. I can't wait to hang out with hopefully Joel and Ellen in their backyard and maybe go and visit Jody and, just like have some time with people to just get to know one another. And I want to see Sandy. I want to hang out with Sandy in person. Oh, I've been falling, so well, I don't know if we're supposed to say this, but I'm like a little bit overly dramatic, but I've been falling in love with the congregation.
Yeah.
And each person I've, gotten to know and just have really enjoyed hearing their stories and can't wait to have that in-person time.
Yeah. Yeah. These people who are supporting me, my intern committee, I haven't met them in person. And that's so weird. It's been a whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So strange.
Great. Thank you again, Randy. We really appreciate you. And we have another question from Beth.
Hi, Beth.
Okay. Hi, Beth. Thanks for tuning in, Beth. Beth asks, what advice can you offer as I currently search for an internship to begin in fall? Beth says she has 2 possibilities and will know in about 2 weeks if either or both congregations think she's a fit.
Ooh, great. Oh, this is such a great question because there are so many things to consider when you're entering into an internship and considering, especially if you have options, right?
Right.
I'm thinking the agreement, like get an agreement in writing, which, any congregation worth their salt is going to do, but you want to have an agreement so that you, put whatever the pay is, whatever kinds of compensation is, what the hour requirements, all of that into a letter of agreement is really important. But I think I would look for a congregation, a minister that's going to be your supervising minister who you feel confident will be able to have the time and energy to mentor you, listen to their sermons, think about what it is that you need to fill out in your portfolio and then determine, does this internship opportunity give you those, the ways to fill out those areas in your portfolio. So for instance, I will give a quick example. I've been a Unitarian Universalist religious educator for 25 years. So when I was looking for an internship, I knew I wanted to work in a congregation where they weren't just looking for someone who had RE experience and then going to be like, okay, we need you because you're good at RE or you already know what you're doing, so we're going to put you in. Will you work with the youth group? Like, I love working with youth, and that's kind of my heart is with working with the youth, the teenagers. So I would be really good at that. Yeah, I would be a very great help to any congregation to work with their youth group, but that's not what I need. What I needed are other things. I need to go to board meetings. I need to work on a public ministry. I need to practice preaching. I need to learn from the minister the kinds of things that I haven't learned about being a minister while I was serving as a religious educator. And so that was really important for me to find a place that would respect that and understand that from the beginning.
Yeah. Depending on how much experience you have in different congregations, you may want to go to, if you're in a large congregation, you may want to experience a smaller congregation. This is your opportunity to expand your skills and comfort. So I would kind of figure out how far you're comfortable getting out of your comfort zone. But I think the most important thing about it is the relationship you will have with your teaching pastor. That is number one. I would interview them. I would talk to other interns if you can.
Previous interns,
yeah. And I would just trust your gut.
Yeah.
Try to just kind of feel how it feels, and as much as you can discern what kind of ministry you want to do, what, like you said, what competencies you need to to work on, and just make sure that you have that the minister is you feel like it is a good fit. Like just what we were talking about, choosing a mentor.
It's good to be a little challenged, but I think there's a point at which you can be too challenged. So yeah, trusting your gut for sure around that, finding that good, that sweet spot. And also I think one of the things that Carrie just said reminded me that I would say, what kind of ministry do you envision yourself having in the future? And if you haven't had an experience in a congregation like that, then find one like that. So if you're thinking, I need to be on a big team, I'm expecting to go in as an assistant minister, and I want to be working with a whole team of like a big team in a big, large congregation, then try to find a large congregation to do your internship in so you can see what it feels like to be in that kind of a system, and then really determine if that is what you want to do. And also then think about reality. Like if you are pretty sure that most of our congregations are not large congregations in Unitarian Universalism. So, if you don't have small church experience, if you don't have program size experience, find it.
So Beth says, thank you to both of you. And these comments have been very helpful. And we have another question from our very own Annalisa. From Community Church of New York. Hi, thanks so much for tuning in. We're happy to have you with us tonight. She wants to know what your summer plans are, whether you'll continue with your studies, and she says that she hopes that you'll have some time to yourself as well.
That's very sweet.
It is very sweet.
You go first?
Why don't you go first?
Okay, I'll go first.
You've got a clear path forward.
Maybe no time for myself, unfortunately. I was unable to do my clinical pastoral education unit last summer because the programs here in New York City were not open because of COVID. So I'm doing my CPE, clinical pastoral education, 1 unit over the summer, and it starts next Tuesday on June 1st, and I'll be in the spiritual care department at Bellevue Hospital. And I am just in the middle of planning for that. I've gotten lots of emails from them. It's a massive hospital, really big system. And I will be doing that until August 13th. So June 1st to August 13th. And then I'm taking a vacation. I'm so excited. My husband, James, and I have booked our flights to go out to Colorado and to Santa Fe, New Mexico to visit our really dear friends, 2 sets of very dear friends who live out there. And I just can't wait to get away and have that time and be in nature and hike. And it's going to be very rejuvenating, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Sounds fabulous.
How about you, Carrie?
So I am going to be doing, I think, 3 sermons at Community Church this summer.
Yeah.
And then 2 at my home congregation in Connecticut.
Great.
Right. And then I'm taking a class, getting my history requirement out of the way. It's spirituality and social justice activism of African American traditions.
Nice. Wow.
Yeah.
Is Dr. Lightsey teaching?
Yeah.
That? Oh, great.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be I already know it's going to be a life-changing class. And then after that, I'm planning on visiting friends and family on the West Coast at some point in August, probably, and then show up in Chicago to start another semester.
That's right. And we're going to be rooming together in Chicago for in-gathering and fall intensives. Carrie and I both attend Meadville Lombard Theological School. So we'll be there in person a little bit this fall, just for a week, but we just very excited about it.
Yeah.
So we have another question from Randy in Atlanta. He writes, Meagan, you mentioned falling in love with your congregation, which I totally resonate with. How are you both preparing yourself for leaving after your internship is completed?
That's one of the sticky things about ministry is this. I mean, I'm not really thinking about it much, but
I haven't prepared yet.
There's this disconnection that has to happen to make room for the
next intern,
or just for ministry to continue. It's just that's the whole thing. It's not our congregation, and yet it is. And so it's a really tricky thing. And it's just something that is part of ministry, those arrivings and the partings.
Mm-hmm. I like to think about it in terms of, I've had this experience from working in churches as a religious educator, and I am thinking about it as by taking my leave and having a time of separation where I don't contact the congregants and they don't contact me for probably a year or 2 years. I can't remember what's required for interns.
A year.
Okay. So then what I am doing is helping. I'm actually giving a gift to the congregation by doing that. And I'm giving a gift to the ministry in that congregation, and also giving a gift to myself. So I'm, as I said, I haven't actually been preparing for it yet, but the way I will prepare myself is to continually remind myself that it's for the best and that there's a really good reason for that separation, and knowing that after a year we'll get back connected again. And that space and time, I don't know, absence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say. So it's good to take a little break and then refresh and renew the relationship.
Yeah, it's that that humility you were talking about in mentor. It's that it's not about me, it's about the congregation.
Although I think we're allowed to invite everyone to our ordination.
Of course,
right?
Of course. Yes.
There'll be a celebration and party and all of that.
Yeah.
That'll be really fun.
Absolutely.
Yes. So we're most likely coming to the end of our time for the live event. This went by so quickly.
I know. Oh my
Thank you
gosh.
all so much for your questions and comments. And we do have time for more. If you have burning questions or reflections, just leave them in the chat, and Meagan and Carrie will respond. But I'd love to ask you to this question that came from this survey, and I'm curious as your responses as well. Your funniest
I knew you were going to ask this one.
related story.
So I was a couple of weeks ago, I was visiting my sister out in Oregon, and I was helping to lead worship, which was 3 hours earlier.
Community
At community church. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what time was it there?
7 o'clock. No, 8 o'clock. It started at 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And so my sister knocks on my door at 7:30 saying, Carrie, are you going to church today? I'm like, oh my gosh. So I woke up, and of course, this is a totally different place to hold the church. So I had to kind of get that all arranged, and the lighting and the chair and the backgrounds and stuff. And it all happened great. It all came together, and it was, it's one of those things that happens.
It's like that song from the musical My Fair Lady, Get Me to the Church on Time.
Yes, exactly.
Different resonance when you're the minister.
Yes, totally.
Meagan, do you have a funny story to share?
I'm not prepared with a funny story. I can't believe it. Nothing's coming to mind.
From your entire life as a Unitarian Universalist.
I roller skated in the sanctuary for the Time for All Ages one time. That was pretty cool. It was pretty funny. But I didn't fall down or anything. Like if I'd fallen down, then that could be my funny story.
How about your apartment?
My apartment?
Yeah.
That I live in right now?
Yeah.
What?
Are there funny stories from your apartment?
Like doing online services and stuff like that? Or like my cat. Yes, that's a good one.
Yes.
Carrie had to really take my hand and bring me to it. Thank you. How about, yes, my cat, of course. I was leading the prayer, and it was very serious and beautiful. And my cat just walked all over me, all over the back of my chair. She was just in the prayer. She was part of the prayer. Moxie is her name. She's got Moxie.
Yes.
And now people are like, where's Meagan's cat? She's become kind of like part of my appearances in worship. Although I will say that I was officiating, or whatever you call it, a ceremony for a communion service for Good Friday for a different congregation. And one of the people who was helping me plan it was like, are you going to make sure that your cat's not in the room with you when you're doing the communion? That was pretty funny. I was like, yes, absolutely. I'm not going to try to like pour wine and have bread and have a cat walking through it. But that was pretty cute.
Yeah. So Vandy and Beth both are giving your cat some love and saying they love seeing her.
Moxie.
Moxie.
You know, I'm going to post a picture because she gets up on me, and I have a series of pictures of her on my shoulder where she literally started rubbing her face on my face. It's too much. So much cuteness. It's overload.
Yes.
Great. So it looks like we asked people for their last final burning questions, and we didn't get any. So it seems like our questions have been answered.
Yeah.
Meagan or Carrie, do you have any final thoughts about? Because this is also our last episode,
Right,
So do you have any final thoughts about what it's been like to reach people through this media ministry?
It has been really amazing, this whole process. Knowing that there are people out there who are listening. It's been really great doing this with you, Meagan. It's just been really humbling, and I'm really glad that we were able to do this. And Amy, thank you. Amy is over here. She's been amazing. She's guided us through this whole process and really made it a conversation. Yes, thank
Our
you,
amazing
Amy.
producer.
Our
Woo!
producer extraordinaire.
You know, I think I will say that this is not something that I had ever done before. So a podcast and then having it be video and having this kind of public ministry has been really, it's been a great learning experience. And I feel like in some ways it's been a really good push to be, to be vulnerable and to be, I don't really, not the kind of person who wants to see myself on video or listen to myself and all of that. And so it's been a lot of growth on that, and recognizing that sometimes growth is a little bit painful, and it's good to get outside of my comfort zone and try something new. And the positivity and the support that has come from you, our community, has made it has made it all worthwhile and has been so encouraging. And I feel like it's been a really important ministry to share what it's like to be an intern minister. And I really hope that we have a second season, and that we are able to just continue on and delve deeply into the things that come up as an intern minister. And then also building on what you said, Carrie, about having the two of us being interns together, but during a pandemic and when everything has been online, like this project gave us something to work on together. It deepened, I feel, our relationship deepened and strengthened. And this has given me, us, an opportunity to feel what it's like to be engaged in shared ministry.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Which I imagine, I want to be engaged in shared ministry for all of my ministry.
Me too,
so it's really been an incredible experience and learning.
Yes, I completely agree.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you all so much for being with us and
And
continuing this conversation.
we're so glad we got to share this beautiful, sweet space.
Mhm.
The ministers study at Community Church of New York. And we're very, very thankful to the Community Church of New York, to our intern committees, to Reverend Peggy, Reverend Chris. All of the staff are incredible. And especially our producer, Amy, who is amazing. And also to Errol.
Yes.
Errol has been a real great support, and it's the end of our season. So we'll see you. We'll see you back in the fall, and we have our listening community on Facebook, our Facebook group.
Yep.
So let's keep in touch over
Absolutely.
the summer. Let's talk about things that come up. Maybe we'll even share a little bit about how things are going with, our summers, our
Mhm.
experiences.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Couldn't have done it without you.
Bye, everyone. Have a
Bye.
great night.